If you enjoy the content on this channel, please like and subscribe. Dune Part 2 is a 2024 American epic science fiction film directed and produced by Denis Villeneuve, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jon Spaihts. The sequel to Dune, released in 2021, it is the second part of the two-part adaptation of the 1965 novel Dune by Frank Herbert. It follows Paul Atreides as he unites with the Fremen people of the desert planet Arrakis to wage war against House Harkonnen. Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem reprise their roles from the first film, with Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, Léa Seydoux, and Souheila Yacoub joining the ensemble cast. Development began after Legendary Entertainment acquired the film and television rights for the Dune franchise in 2016. Villeneuve signed on as director in 2017, intending to make a two-part adaptation of the novel due to its complexity. Production contracts were only secured for the first film, with the second film having to be greenlit based on the first film's success. In the same style as the two-part adaptation of Stephen King's It in 2017, and with the second part released in 2019. After the critical and commercial success of that first film, Legendary greenlit Dune Part 2 in October of 2021. Principal photography took place in Budapest, Italy, Jordan, and Abu Dhabi between July and December of 2022. After being delayed from its original November 2023 release date due to the 2023 Hollywood labour disputes, the film premiered at Leicester Square, London on February 15, 2024, and was released in the United States on March 1st. The film has received praise from critics and has grossed over $710 million worldwide. A sequel, based on Herbert's 1969 novel Dune Messiah, is also in development. In March 2022, Pugh and Butler were reported to be in talks to star in the film. Butler was offered the role while having coffee with Villeneuve without needing to audition. He was cast as Feud Rotha, who is the younger nephew and heir to the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Originally in the 1984 film, the role was played by Sting. Butler trained for 4 months in Budapest, using a fitness regime made by an ex-Navy SEALs member. Villeneuve described his performance as being a cross between a psychopathic killer, an Olympic swordmaster, a snake, and Mick Jagger. While Butler researched past cultures, he felt bred brutality and took inspiration from various animals, including sharks and snakes. Butler said that he drew inspiration from Gary Oldman and Heath Ledger for his performance. He imitated Skarsgård's voice as the Baron, and he felt that Feud would be influenced by Baron due to his growing up with him. Attending the film's London premiere in February 2024, Anya Taylor-Joy confirmed that she had been cast in the film. Villeneuve was surprised that her role had been kept a secret for that long, noting that it required so much work to keep it a secret. Her role had been revealed in a casting credit list for the film on Letterboxd. Principal photography was set to begin on July 21st in Budapest, Hungary, but began earlier on July 18th. In October of that year, Chalamet took a break from filming in order to attend the premiere of Bones and All. The production team managed to shoot during partial solar eclipse on October 25th and used the footage of the opening fight scene between Harkonnen and the Fremen soldiers. In November, the production moved to Abu Dhabi, with Pugh finishing her scenes in November. Certain scenes set at dawn had to be filmed across 3 days to take advantage of the golden hour. A special unit of production filmed scenes with Taylor-Joy in Namibia, the driest country in the sub-Saharan Africa. Filming wrapped on December 12, 2022. Villeneuve and cinematographer Greg Fraser filmed Feyd-Rautha's gladiator sequence with specially designed black and white infrared cameras. They wanted the Harkonnens to cheer and stomp rather than applaud, and designed over 30 sections for the spectators in the arena. Butler spent his first week on set filming the scene, while the set had very high temperatures that caused some people to faint. He also improvised his kiss scene with the Baron. For romantic scenes between Paul and Shani, the scenes were primarily filmed in the remote locations in Jordan during the golden hour. The golden hour is a period of daytime shortly after sunrise or before sunset, during which daylight is redder and softer than when the sun is higher in the sky. The scenes were often filmed as quickly as possible, with only 1 hour window being available. The scene of Paul's sandworm ride was filmed practically on a production unit separate from the main one, led by producer Tanya Laponte and a special team. Chalamet estimated the scene took over 3 months to film, with individual shots occurring over a span of 20 to 30 minutes. Butler and Chalamet separately trained with the Kali instructor in Los Angeles for the climatic battle between Paul and Feyd-Rautha. They were excited to do the scene and immediately began practicing once they were later met in Budapest. They performed the scene themselves, including for wide and camera shots as well. Chalamet delivers the monologue entirely in Shabuska. Ferguson cited Lady Jessica undergoing the Reverend Mother process as her favourite scene, working with contortionists for the scene and comparing it to an Exorcist film. In January 2024, images of a forthcoming Dune-themed popcorn bucket from the AMC theatres went viral and became an internet meme after its sandworm-inspired design was compared to an artificial vagina. Reactions to the bucket received millions of views on social networks TikTok, and jokes about it were featured on US late-night television, including a musical sketch on Saturday Night Live. Villeneuve said that the bucket was an insane marketing idea, but that it had brought a lot of laughter and joy. Some commentators criticized the film for failing to adequately deal with the original book's Middle East and North African influences, or otherwise incorporate enough representation from the region. The lack of casting actors from the region amongst the leads, despite the use of the region's culture and superficial use of Islam. Some trivia notes. Stellan Skarsgård's body makeup took 8 hours to apply and 2 hours to remove for every day of shooting. He didn't drink anything and took Imodium pills in order to avoid having to go to the bathroom during shooting days. Lady Jessica's facial tattoos are Ben Gesserit litany against fear. The language used oftentimes by the Fremen is named Chabuska, which derives from the real-life Arabic, although it also contains part French, Greek, Romani and Slavic, including heavy alterations from Hebrew and Sanskrit. Actor and musician Sting, who appeared in the original Dune in 1984, turned down a cameo appearance in this film. Mahdi, a name the locals call Paul several times throughout the film, has roots in Arabic. Mahdi al-Martyr, or Mahdi the Awaited, is a prominent figure in Islam, which is stated that he will appear during the end of time and cleanse the world of evil. Lady Jessica's role is significantly beefed up in this version. In the book, she largely retreats into the background in the later passages, but Denis Villeneuve viewed her involvement being critical in masterminding the rise of her son. The author, Frank Herbert's son Brian Herbert, called this the best adaptation of his father's work he had ever seen. Now, I went into this film with a lot of skepticism. It's not that I didn't enjoy the first film, I just found it convoluted, over the top and exaggerated, and probably wasn't in the right headspace to view it. Look, Frank Herbert's Dune is an absolute classic, and should be made into film and treated as such. I just found the first film to be very slow, methodical, beautifully filmed, with fantastic attention to detail, but a story that was confusing, overly complicated, and just didn't grab me enough for me to invest in fully. So going into part 2, I found that I was somewhat skeptical, as I said earlier, about actually sitting down to watch this film, especially with a running length of 165 minutes. Also, for some reason, the casting here of Timothée Chalamet just didn't work for me. Look, he's a very good actor, and in many ways his casting is perfect as Paul Atreides, but for some reason his sullen, nonchalant look within the first film really just annoyed me. Look, in this one he's a lot better, and really sort of tries to grab onto the role as much as possible. But I feel Chalamet sometimes relies too much on his boyish good looks rather than his acting chops. Zendaya, whom I usually am a big fan of, also I just don't feel was particularly well cast here, and I don't think the chemistry between Chalamet and her really works that well. For me, this is casting that is based on two topical and trending actors, rather than casting the roles based on how the characters are written within the book. In saying that though, they both do what they can with the roles. When it comes to the rest of the casting, well, I feel that's more on point. Rebecca Ferguson is excellent here as Lady Jessica, as is Josh Brolin. And the addition now, of course, of Austin Butler is an excellent choice, as he really immerses himself within the role and becomes the violent and scary Fade Ralpher, as is the returning Stellan Skarsgård. Another miscast though has to be Christopher Walken here. I'm a big fan of Walken, but this is just not a role for him. He brings no gravitas or sense of leadership to the role of Shaddam IV. And unfortunately it's these casting missteps that really leaves this film, for me, wanting more. Villeneuve though is a visual director. He's directed beautiful films, for example like Arrival, and who can of course forget Blade Runner 2049. This film is an absolute visual masterpiece. And for me, it's the visuals that make this film work, the grandeur, the spectacle, the absolute splendor in which Villeneuve captures the desert-like landscape. As I said, the story is incredibly complicated, draws a huge influence from Middle Eastern cultures. I've never been an out-and-out Dune fan. Though I know the story and understand the concept, I feel the film maybe is somewhat self-indulgent in putting it forth. Look, it's a very difficult novel to cover, and has never really been portrayed very well on screen. And without a doubt, these two films now have definitely captured the essence of the novel much better. But in saying that though, I do feel in many ways they're exceptionally drawn out, convoluted, and far too complicated, especially with the plethora of fantasy and escapist films that are being made in the modern age. Well, fortunately with its misstep in casting, but phenomenal visuals, an absolute epic spectacle, Dune is still a film worth watching, if not just to be awe-inspired by Villeneuve's vision and pure love for the source material. Dune Part 2 gets an 8.5 out of 10.